There are moments when life goes quiet in a way that feels personal. Not peaceful, not calm, but heavy, like the world has stopped responding to you. You pray, but nothing answers back. You work, but nothing moves. You show up, yet it feels as if you're invisible. And the thought you're afraid to say out loud begins to surface. Did I miss my moment? Am I being punished? Did God forget me? If you've ever felt this, listen closely. Because silence is not where people are abandoned. Silence is where they are shaped. History does not celebrate the silent years, but they are always there. Before every revelation, there is concealment. Before every calling, there is isolation. The problem is, we live in a world that worships visibility. We equate being seen with being chosen, being loud with being powerful, being busy with being valuable. But divine glory has never worked that way. Plato once wrote that the soul does not grow in noise but in stillness, because truth does not shout. It waits. And Nietzsche, though deeply critical of religion, understood something unsettling. Those capable of enduring solitude without becoming bitter are the ones capable of creating new values. Silence is not empty. It is a test of depth. Most people collapse when the applause disappears. They lose direction when validation dries up. They confuse attention with meaning. But the ones set apart are often removed from the crowd, not to be punished, but to be prepared. Think of Moses. Raised in a palace, trained in power, yet unfit to lead. So God sent him into 40 years of obscurity. Not sermons, not miracles, just desert, repetition, and silence. Only after pride dissolved did authority appear. Bonhoeffer wrote from prison that God does not save us from suffering, but through it. That the absence of immediate rescue is not divine neglect, but divine participation in our becoming. And this is the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. If God revealed everything you were meant to become too early, it would destroy you. Silence protects you from premature elevation, because unformed character cannot survive power. Unexamined motives cannot handle influence, and unresolved wounds will always sabotage destiny. This is why the waiting feels intentional, because it is. You are being stripped of borrowed identities. The version of you that depended on praise, the version that needed to be understood, the version that confused being liked with being aligned. Machiavelli warned that those who rise too quickly, without learning restraint, inevitably collapse under their own excess. Power, without inner discipline, devours its host. Divine silence is discipline without cruelty. Look closely at your life. The doors that closed, the people who left, the opportunities that faded without explanation. What if they were not losses, but removals? What if God wasn't withholding something from you, but removing what would have delayed you? The world trains you to seek comfort. But transformation does not happen in comfort. It happens when illusions fall apart. That's why the silence hurts. It exposes what you are leaning on instead of truth. Psychology tells us that when external stimulation is removed, the mind is forced inward. That's when suppressed fears surface. That's when identity crises begin. And that's why most people distract themselves. But the chosen ones, whether they want to be or not, are forced to sit with themselves, with their flaws, with their ego, with their unresolved grief. This is not a curse, it's initiation. Every ancient tradition understood this truth long before it was ever written down. The wilderness, the cave, the desert, the monastery, across centuries and civilizations, wisdom was never rushed. It was not handed out to the loudest voice or the most visible figure. It was earned slowly, through endurance. Before anyone was trusted with insight, they were tested by silence. Before they were allowed to speak with authority, they were required to listen. To God, to themselves, and to the uncomfortable truths that surface only when distraction disappears. Silence has always been the gate. This is why stillness terrifies so many people. Not because it is empty, but because it is honest. Noise allows us to hide. Movement gives the illusion of progress. Busyness numbs the questions we don't want to answer. But silence removes the mask. And once the mask is gone, you are left with who you really are. Jesus did not begin publicly. That alone should unsettle our modern ideas of purpose and destiny. 30 years of obscurity, no crowds, no miracles recorded, no recognition. 30 years of quiet preparation. Before 3 years altered the course of history. The Son of God did not rush visibility. He did not chase relevance. He did not try to prove himself early. He waited, and in that waiting, something was formed that could never have been rushed. Authority without ego, power without insecurity, truth without performance. The pattern is consistent everywhere you look, if you are willing to see it. Joseph dreamed of greatness, then disappeared into slavery and prison. Moses was raised in power, then exiled into anonymity. David was anointed king, then hidden in caves. Paul encountered truth, then vanished into isolation. History celebrates their arrival. But God shaped them in disappearance, so if you feel behind, you are not. If you feel forgotten, you are not. If it feels like life has pressed pause while everyone else moves forward, this may be the most honest season you will ever live through, because nothing false survives silence. Silence does not tolerate image. It does not reward performance. It does not care about how you appear. In silence, you discover who you are when no one is watching, and who you were pretending to be when they were. This is where many people break, because they realize their motivation was applause. Their discipline depended on validation. Their faith was loud but shallow. Psychology confirms this in uncomfortable ways. When external stimulation is removed, the mind turns inward. Suppressed fears rise. Unresolved wounds surface. And this is why most people flee silence. They fill every quiet moment. They distract themselves with movement. They confuse activity with meaning. But those who endure silence, who remain, begin to notice something unsettling. The silence begins to speak. It reveals attachments you didn't know controlled you. It exposes fears you buried under productivity. It shows you how much of your identity was built on being seen. This is why silence hurts before it heals. Nietzsche observed that those incapable of enduring solitude often become dependent on the crowd, not because they love people, but because they fear themselves. And that fear is dangerous. Because a person who cannot stand alone will always compromise truth to belong. Here is the twist most people never accept. God does not prepare people for success. He prepares them for responsibility. Success attracts attention. Responsibility carries weight. And weight will crush anyone who has not learned restraint. Responsibility demands clarity, the ability to act without applause, the strength to stand alone without collapsing inward. This is why elevation is delayed, because character must arrive before influence. Machiavelli warned that power gained before self-mastery leads inevitably to corruption. Bonhoeffer wrote that suffering is not a detour from formation, but the path itself. Divine silence is discipline without cruelty. If you are being quieted right now, it is not because you are failing. It is because something loud is being removed. Your fear of being unseen, your addiction to approval, your need to be validated before acting. These things cannot survive where you are being taken. Because the next version of you cannot be led by insecurity. Silence removes what would sabotage you later. At first it feels like loss. You lose momentum. You lose affirmation. You lose the feeling of importance. But over time, something strange happens. You feel lighter. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending every decision. You stop chasing permission. Your sense of worth no longer rises and falls with response. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, something changes. Your words become fewer, but heavier. Your actions slower, but deliberate. Your presence quieter, but undeniable. This is the transformation most people miss. Stay absolutely focused. We are rooting for you.